What's up, everybody? Kyle here at Let's Talk Wax, and today we're looking at the 2023 Bowman top prospects and some sleepers at the end. I'm going to go through my Let's Talk Wax rank guide right now real quick for y'all, and you can see the rankings over here are MLB MVP through upper level MILB, which is Elite 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The PR stands for the previous rank over here on the on my original sheet, and the CR stands for current rank, so you can see where they differentiated between my last update. You guys can find these breakdowns for all Bowman releases since 2020 over on my Patreon page, and I just pulled these out of my PDF file. I know the quality's bad, and it's the best I can do right now. I'm super busy. I'm coaching a high school baseball team. My daughter's starting softball and playing basketball right now. There's just a lot going on, so I'm trying to get some content to you guys on YouTube. But like I said, you can find all this stuff over at my Patreon page, the PDF files for all releases from all the way back to 2020, and update these a couple times a year. These are just my finalized updates. We're going to start with Angel Genao, who had a pretty big year in 2024. His cards went from about $5 to $7 to $25. He was one of the big surprises out of this release. He hit really well last year, made it all the way to high A. And as I mentioned in my last video, you're going to see this age right here. That's their current age. It's not necessarily the age that they played in high A at to finish the season. It is their current age when I recorded all this data, which was about 2 weeks ago. I'm working on 2022 Bowman draft right now. But Genao hit for some power, hit for some average, had 10 home runs, 25 stolen bases. Just looking like a really solid player right now. There are some elevated ground ball to fly ball rates here. You can see 2.08 and 1.66, which is a little high for me, but the WRC plus is very good, 166 and 144. An average player would have a WRC plus of 100. So however many deviations above 100 a player's WRC plus is shows how much better they are than the average player, and how many deviations or numbers below 100 would show how much worse a player is than the average player for a given circumstance or a given league or whatever level they're at. That's why they do the WRC plus per like low A and high A. So it just shows where he's at in low A and where he's at in high A. Austin Charles will probably be down on our sleeper list. Collier was a guy that I really wasn't very high on. With this release coming out, he was super expensive on release. His cards dipped around $35 in 2023. He had a pretty awful season, only had 6 home runs, hit 250 in low A. He got promoted to high A, actually. Spent the entire season in high A last year at age 19 and hit 20 jacks. So obviously his stuff went right back up to his release day hype prices. Probably just a little bit cheaper, but he's definitely trending up right now. He does have some high K rates, but he was pretty young playing the full season in high A this year, so the 25% K rate isn't too terrible, but those are some big power numbers for a kid his age playing a full season in high A. He's going to be playing third base. That's probably going to be his upside, his ceiling defensively, even possibly maybe moving to first base later, but big bat, should be able to handle any position that his defense allows him to play. Colby Thomas, he is 24 years old. I do cut off I do cut off prospects at 24 years old. But Colby Thomas was so good last year that I didn't want to take him off because I wanted to track him and see where he ends up. You will see some players on my 24-year-old chopping block on my next breakdown 2022 draft who are still in the mix for a big league spot, an MLB debut in 2025. There's several of those on the 2022 draft checklist. Guys like Gavin Cross, that's one I can think of offhand, but I'll be doing that video probably in the next week. That's going to be my next one. But Colby Thomas had a huge hit, power, speed tool demonstration in 2024. Had 14 home runs in AA and 17 in AAA. Stole 15 bags. Hit for some average. Hit for a ton of power. The K rates were very good until he reached AAA. He had a 30% K rate. The swing strike percentage was a little high there too. So definitely some K issues in AAA, but they didn't really manifest in AA at all. But he's a guy to definitely watch. And playing for the A's, he could definitely make his pro debut, his MLB debut in 2025, which is going to help the price of his cards. He was a $5 auto. I did a sleeper video on him about a year and a half ago when I liked what I was seeing out of him. He, big see here, late in the 2023 season, he was very good, and he picked up a lot of steam coming into 2025 season. He's pretty expensive right now. No longer a sleeper. A lot of people are aware of what he's capable of doing. Davison de Los Santos was traded to the Miami Marlins. He's a huge power bat with a pretty solid hit tool. He does put the ball on the ground quite a bit, and he does not walk. So some things that I don't like about him there. But the dude hit, we got 14 home runs in Double-A, 14 before the trade, and 12 post-trade. That's going to put him at 40 jacks. If my math is correct, that's going to be 28 and 12 is 40 jacks. Yeah, so lots of home runs coming from Davison de Los Santos. Huge power bat over the course of the entire season last year. The power never ceased to exist. But he was traded to the Miami Marlins, and he's playing pretty much first base right now. So hopefully it doesn't turn into one of those prototypical slugger roles. Drew Jones, probably going to get a lot of comments about this, but just not a really big fan of what he's doing right now. He was better in the back half of the season, but you know, he's 21.1, still hasn't made it to high A. He's not hitting for any power, and he's hitting for some average. The K numbers are bad. The ground ball to fly ball rates are just bad. And defense is only going to get him so far. He's not going to be able to go to the major leagues and play center field and hit a $120. It's just not how it's going to work. So hopefully he can improve, but not one of my favorites on this list. It never was to begin with. So sorry to everybody who's chasing Drew Jones. It's just my opinion. It's really not that big of a deal anyway. Hao-Yu Lee had a really big season at 2023 and 2024. He's really hit throughout the course of his entire career. Last year at Double-A, he was traded to the Detroit Tigers. He went to high A for a little bit, then they promoted him to Double-A in Detroit, hit 289 with a 190 ISO. He did, over the course of the entire season, hit 18 home runs, so big, some pretty good power, way above average power. He's got above average speed, stole some bases. He's got pretty good K numbers, had really good K numbers in Double-A, much better than what he did in high A. So definitely a guy to watch, another guy that could possibly make his major league debut in some facet. He's a second baseman, so his defensive ceiling is not very high, and they've got guys like Colt Keith up there right now who I think he could really go off this year. But we'll have to wait and see with Hao-Yu Lee. He's a 2.5 on this. Hector Rodriguez is 3. I'm just going through the 2.5s and up. Like I said, if you guys want to catch this document on my Patreon page, you can see the breakdowns for all the players that I have. Jefferson Rojas is actually a 2.5, and on my sleepers list, his cards are all the way down to like $10, so super cheap buy-in. He's 19.8 right now, and he played the entire season in high A. Didn't do a ton of damage, hit 245 with a 91 ISO, hit 6 home runs, 21 stolen bases. But, you know, he had a tough assignment, and South Bend is not a hitter-friendly park in the first month or two of the season. He did perform pretty well despite his age. He's got some very good K numbers and a sub-10 swing strike percentage. So even though he didn't produce offensively, he did have some really good K numbers and K data, which leads me to believe he could be a little bit better if he starts the season in high A next year and adjust. Maybe we could see him in Double-A at age 20. So definitely a guy to watch, and he's very cheap right now. I think this is the cheapest Jefferson Rojas has been. But like I said, he was a fresh 19 going into high A this year, played the entire season there, and that's a really, really aggressive assignment, especially when the first 2 or 3 months there it's frigid. It's like a gosh dang frozen tundra. So we've got Josue de Paula, one of the bigger bats on this checklist for sure. He was another 19-year-old that got promoted to high A. He didn't start the season there. He had 251 plate appearances at low A. And then in high A, he had 230. He hit pretty well in low A. Didn't do as much damage power-wise in high A, but just had immaculate K numbers. With this kid, one of my favorite things about him is the K data. He takes a ton of walks. He rarely strikes out. He doesn't swing and miss, and he gets the ball in the air for the most part. And he could be a really special offensive tool, you know, as he develops physically. So he's not reached physical maturity, and I think his cards are going to be pretty expensive. I think he's going to continue to climb up top 100 radar, especially if he performs well in 2025. We're just going to have to wait and see. He's already pretty expensive at $75, but He's been one of the bigger chases in this release from the jump. His cards haven't really gone either direction. He started at $60 in 2023, and he's pretty much stayed right around there. So he's not a secret. I think a lot of people know how good he could be. It's just a matter of what he decides to do. Ceiling-wise, you know, with power and hit tool. Justin Crawford, he's starting to run into a little bit more power. He hit 9 home runs in the 2024 season as opposed to his 3 home runs. He had a few more plate appearances in 2024, but still the power numbers definitely jumped up quite a bit. He's got elite speed, elite contact, plays in an elite center field, so he's got a lot of tools, and I think his popularity in the hobby is going to be determined by his power. You can still see, though, the ground ball to fly ball rates. They've improved significantly. In 2023, he was sitting right around a 5, which is just atrocious for any type of power. But he's gotten his ground ball to fly ball rates in the 2.85 to 3.23. Still not good, but not. It's better. It's still terrible for me as far as power goes, but it's better. It's improvement from 2023. I think that's why we saw the 9 home runs as opposed to the 3. So Justin Crawford, definitely a guy to watch. He was my favorite Bowman Chrome Auto under $50 last year, but he's jumped up to $60, so he will price out of that list that I will try to get to you guys before the start of the minor league season. Like I said, I've been extremely busy, and I'm just trying to get some things out to you guys. I'm trying to take care of my people on Patreon first with some articles from Bobby and all my updates and everything over there. I'm trying to get you guys on YouTube some stuff too. So just a lot going on in my life right now. I am not a full-time YouTuber. I have a life outside of this, unlike some sports cards YouTubers. So bear with me here. Lazaro Montes, another big bat. This checklist, I should have mentioned this in the beginning. It's absolutely loaded. I don't recommend ripping wax. It's something that I used to do probably 15 years ago when I first started getting into Bowman cards. That was how I got into it, was ripping, and it was my favorite thing to do. I got a lot of excitement out of it, but after about 2 years of that, I realized that financially, if I'm trying to generate a little bit of income from this hobby, that's not the way to do it. But if you just enjoy doing it, it really doesn't matter if you're making any money. So whatever route you choose, if you're trying to make money, I would definitely stick with singles. If you're trying to just have fun and rip and just enjoy the hobby, this is the release to rip. It's the best one available, I think, right now. Of course, besides from the latest, the 2024 draft drop. I mean, the latest release is the first, is always the best, and then there's the ones behind it. But if you are getting burnt out with 2024 draft, I would definitely recommend 2023 Bowman. Lazaro Montes, back to him, had 21 dingers last year. He was another guy that was 19 years old playing in high A. He struggled upon his call up to high A. His cards jumped way down. I'm talking like big time struggle. Everybody freaked out, and you could have bought his stuff when he about a month after his promotion for, I think it was around like 30 or 40 bucks. So now it's back up to 60 because he kind of recovered. The K number, or the K percentage, did skyrocket along with the swing and strike percentage. So he did face some K issues in high A, but he was still 19 years old. As I mentioned before, this is the age now, not the age they played. So Lazaro Montes, right field. He's a big bat to watch in this release. We've got Michael Arroyo. He's another guy that came on really strong in 2024. He kind of struggled when he got promoted to low A in 2023. You can see he hit 234 with 130 on ISO. And then in 2024, he kind of came back and just mashed. He hit 23 home runs, hit for some average. He did have a little bit of a K, kind of like Montes. He did a little K percentage spike there in high A, but a 140 and a 151 ISO compared to the 118 ISO over a 265 plate appearance sample size in 2023. So big improvements. His cards were $10 coming out of 2023, and they have jumped up to around $25. I think they've actually cooled off a little bit. I think they're around 30 or 35, maybe even 40, while he was in high A just raking this year. So Arroyo, another guy to watch, another big bat, Moises Ballesteros. He's actually playing first base. I've read a lot of reports that scouts and GMs and affiliated Cubs personnel are thinking that he does have the tools to possibly stick behind the plate, so that's going to enhance his value for sure. Ballesteros has just hit. That's all he's really done throughout his minor league career. I think there's not a ton of athlete here, but the bat is really good. It's kind of like a Alejandro Kirk look with a little more juice and not quite as bad of a body. But he's a player that can hit. If you look at him, like I said, he's kind of stocky and he's kind of thicker built, but he's a big bat. And he's hit throughout his minor league career. And we know the story with those guys. If it's consistent hit, they're at some point going to get a shot at the MLB level. And it could be 2025 for Moises Ballesteros. So if you have some of him, I would definitely wait to sell unless he goes off in spring training for a call-up in 2025. Nelson Rada, 19.5 AA. The Los Angeles Angels have been very freely promoting young prospects to the upper minors. They didn't take any. They didn't give Christian Moore much time to develop. They just threw him in AA, AAA. They are very quick to escalate their prospects, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but they're very quick to send their prospects into the upper minors at young ages. They aren't afraid to put a lot of pressure on them. Nelson Rada definitely struggled with that pressure, but he's got elite speed. When he was age appropriate in low A and DSL, he did hit for some average. There hasn't been any power to speak of, but it's elite speed, and he just needs a shot to play age appropriate ball, kind of maybe, I guess you could say, like Ethan Salas type situation where, maybe he's just not quite ready for that AA offense, but maybe defensively he's pretty good and he can handle it out there in center field. So somebody to watch for sure. He's a $15 auto. His cards are trending down, so a guy to check out there. Roman Anthony, the dude's really good. He's just really good. He's jumped up into like top 5 of almost all mainstream ranks. His base autos are 275. He's not a secret. He really was never a secret, but I think there are a lot of people that liked him initially in this release, and now after performing in AA and AAA, everybody's like, wow, this kid is legit. So he is a 1. I would have gone with an elite ranking here. I rarely do elite rankings. Like I said in the last video, I think my last elite ranky was Jackson Holiday and Jackson Chourio. And prior to that was Ellie De La Cruz. So those were the last 3 elite rankies that I've had. They were the only ones in the 2023 updates and everything. And Roman Anthony, I think, would have been there if it weren't for the ground ball to fly ball rates. They're just a little high in AAA, something that, could impact his power, but we'll have to wait and see. He's definitely going to get a shot, I think, at the MLB level in 2025. So his cards are super expensive, and they're selling like wildfire right now on the social media platforms that I'm in. So if you're up from 2023, which is a huge increase right here, you can see by $100 on the base auto. Maybe now's a good time to sell while people are going kind of Roman Anthony crazy, or you could wait till the call-up. It's really hard to predict what the market's going to do and what players are going to do. So one of the rules I always had as a collector was if I doubled my profit, I sold immediately no matter what. And it's worked out pretty good so far. I haven't had a whole lot of time to buy and sell over the last 2 years. Like I said, just so busy creating content, chasing my kids around and coaching high school sports and working a full-time job on top of doing this. So it's just been very busy. Spencer Jones, I'm trying to blast through this thing, but there's so many good bats on this list that I'm going to try to shorten him up with. He's a higher risk bat. He plays for he's a Yankee, so his cards are automatically valuable in that aspect. He's a hit, speed, power tool guy, but he's got so much risk. The risk is probably higher than the ceiling. I think at this point, 36.9% K rate in AA. That's just astronomical. It makes me worry what he's going to do at the major league level. He's going to make any contact at all. So I did give him a 2.5. I could have gone to a 3, but the production numbers, you can see here the production's still pretty good, even though he had the very high K rate. And in this game of baseball in 2025, production is king. So we'll see what happens with Jones, but like I said, very, very risky prospect right there. Xavier Isaac, another big bat, 18 home runs last year. He was in AA and high A this year. He struggled to hit for some average. The numbers in AA kind of kind of cranked a little bit. He was much better in high A, had 15 home runs, 30% K rate, but the K rate went all the way up to 40%, the swing and strike percentage 20.9. There is some swing and miss here for sure. If you look at these 4 blocks right here, you can see the swing and strike percentage is elevated. I really like swing and strike percentages under 10. Those are guys that I really enjoy ranking. I rank those guys much higher than I would others that have the sub 10 and the sub 20K percentage here. You see he doesn't check any of those boxes, but he does have some big power, and he was assigned aggressively this year. So he's a guy that could drop. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with him. It's a $65 auto. I wouldn't pay $65 for Xavier Isaac right now. I'm just not sure. These numbers scare me. As I mentioned, these are the scary numbers, and with those guys, I wouldn't pay peak value when I could go get players like Josue to Paula for $65 as well. So do what you want. Like I said, this is just my opinion. I've been wrong probably more times than some people in this hobby have throughout their career. I've been in it for a long time. I've made tons of buying mistakes. I've been high on several players that turned out to be absolutely, I wouldn't say terrible, but they definitely didn't pan out the way that everyone thought they would. That's what's fun about this hobby. Nobody can guarantee anything, and I just try to provide as much information as I can. Here are the list of MLB graduates, because I'm getting long-winded again. We've got Julian Matt Mervis, who was traded to the Marlins. He was my #1 guy on this release, and yeah, here's an example of how little I know. He was my #1 when this first released. I do a top 25 video for all these releases every time they come out, and Mervis was #1. And by the numbers, it was a good call, because his numbers were ridiculous in the minor leagues, and he's been pretty much just a pancake since making it to the MLB level. And that's the proof in the pudding that my word is not gospel, and you can't predict the future. You can't just go out here and throw names out and be like, this is legit. He's legit. He's going to be a superstar. You can't do that. And if anybody does, I would definitely not follow them at all. So yeah, Mervis was a big swing and miss for me. Geloff was a huge surprise out of this. He's short printed. He's got Speckle Plus only. He's had a pretty good year. He had a 1.4 WAR. Junior Caminero, he had a pretty good debut season. I think hopefully he could improve quite a bit this year offensively, and I'm excited to see what he does. But he has graduated to the major leagues. Probably the biggest name on this list still right now is Caminero. I guess you could argue Roman Anthony right now, but those two, Anthony and Caminero, probably the two of my favorites on this checklist. You can see the long laundry list of age disqualifications and the Let's Talk Wax rank chopping block. These are all players who are terrible and probably never going to make it out of minor league baseball. Some of them are free agents as we speak. Here is the list of sleepers that you've probably all been waiting for. Now, I did sort them by Let's Talk Wax rank, and I try to find guys that are $15 and under for everyone who likes to prospect on a budget. When I first started prospecting, to spend $50 on one base auto was just freaking astronomical. I remember, gosh, who was it? I'm trying to think of one of the top prospects from back, Minnesota Twins, Byron Buxton. His cards were right around his base autos. I think it was back in 2000 and, gosh, it was so long, I don't remember. But we had Byron Buxton autos. It was over 10 years ago. And his base autos were $100. And that was like, oh my gosh, Byron Buxton cards are $100. And he was the #1 overall prospect. And I did buy one. And I had never done that before. It was like a huge thing for me. It was like a nervous buy. I ended up pulling the trigger on it, but cards just weren't that expensive 10 years ago. Like I said, Roman Anthony cards are $275, and you can just see how much value has increased in the value of base autos. I always tried to stay around the $15 mark. I remember buying like Nomar Mazara cards for $15 and just all kinds of players. I never went above $15, and that's what kind of kept me. I could buy a lot of autos. I could buy different guys, but never liked spending a ton of money on one player. So I'm getting long-winded again. Jefferson Rojas, Rada is a sleeper for me at $5. The hit tool may never come along, but I mean, for $5, it's worth it. It's worth a shot. Alejandro Osuna, he's a first chrome only, but definitely somebody to check out. Austin Charles is a big risk. Hector Rodriguez is kind of trending not as highly as I was on him earlier in 2024. He's down to a 3. I think I had him at like a 2 at one point. Jesus Baez, Luis Lara. He's got a first chrome only in this release. His first auto was in 2023 chrome. Nick Morabito, Gabriel Gonzalez, I got to check out. $5 auto. Randy DeJesus, Diane Jorge, Kenny Gomez, and Carlos Jorge. All players for you guys to check out. And like I said, over on Patreon, I have this full breakdown in PDF format. You can get the lowdown on all of these sleepers if I didn't cover them in this video. But that's going to wrap this video up. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate all my supporters over on Patreon, especially my level 3 guys. A quick shout out to you. And if you guys use my code below in my comments, you can get $25 off your first PSA submission. And you can also check out the Card Hedger app down there in the description as well. It's a pretty cool tool for tracking the value of cards over time. And y'all have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video.